Hey guys, I'm Jax and this is my spoiler-free review for the Pope's Exorcist. As soon as I heard that Russell Crowe was going to star as the titular Pope's Exorcist in a new horror film, I was beyond excited. I love Russell Crowe, I love horror films, and I think the idea of exorcism and exorcists themselves is really interesting. It's a really kind of bizarre thing that still happens, and this is based off a real guy. The Pope's Exorcist is a real person. The Pope has a guy who he calls up on the phone and goes, "Bro, Gabriele, there's a demon that needs to be exorcised." The real Pope, the Pope who's alive in the world we live in. He has a guy he calls who's called the Pope's Exorcist. And Russell Crowe is going to play that guy. I don't know, there's something about that idea that is so exciting and bizarre and interesting, and I was really interested to see how this was going to go. It was a really fascinating idea for a film, for a premise of a movie. What is it like to follow the Pope's Exorcist? And I didn't expect it to be some kind of buddy cop situation, even though that would be amazing with the Pope and the Pope's Exorcist. I knew it was going to be very self-serious, and it was probably going to involve actual demons and all that stuff, but I still thought the premise was going to be really fascinating and interesting and kind of dive into the whole exorcism genre in a different, unique way. But unfortunately, this film might be the most lazy, boring, derivative, nothing film I have seen in a very long time. It was a slog to get through. This film is essentially The Exorcist, but bad, plus Russell Crowe. But Russell Crowe can't save it, and if Russell Crowe can't save your movie, nothing can. This pains me to say because I was generally really excited to see this film, and I only heard about it really recently when I saw a trailer. I hadn't heard anything about it, so I was like, oh, this is coming out super soon, really exciting. And just I don't know, almost immediately, within 10-15 minutes, the film just had this dreary, self-serious, boring slog kind of feeling. They try and make Russell Crowe to be this really kind of cool, sexy, young, well, he's not young, but he's not your regular priest or exorcist guy. He's cool and hip with the kids. He's drinking, he's making jokes, he's charming. But it all feels really surface level. The jokes aren't funny. Russell Crowe's trying his best, I guess. I don't know. Russell Crowe's often very good, but don't expect a performance like The Nice Guys. This is very generic Russell Crowe. And I didn't hate him. He's not bad in the movie. No one's really bad in the movie. The kid who's the little demon exorcist boy is actually quite spectacular. The acting all around is pretty good. It's the story and the scares and the mood that I think what really let this film down. The story is non-existent. It's just The Exorcist. Have you seen The Exorcist? Imagine that, but bad. This film feels just like a remake. If you heard they were remaking the original Exorcist, and it's gonna be fresh and modern and lots of CGI and, it's gonna be more, full on. He's gonna swear more curses, more gross, vulgar stuff. And it's just gonna have all those modern things and kind of lose sight of what works about The Exorcist. It's just like that. The mood and atmosphere in this film feels really generic, really just kind of we've seen a million of these films before. There are a lot of kind of action set pieces, for lack of a better word, and they feel really derivative of The Conjuring, but without any of that flair and style that kind of those films have. Those have so much character, and the camera has so much kind of energy. In this, it's just, I don't know, it's so standard. It doesn't feel amateurish. The film looks good technically. The colors are nice. The color grade is nice. Some of the shots are mildly interesting. It just feels so kind of boring and just kind of safe and uninspired. The film feels so derivative. The basic premise of this film is a new family go into this new house and it's getting renovated and they're like, oh, we don't like being in this new house, Mom. And it's a spooky house. That's every horror film. That's every horror film. How many more horror films do we need to have where a family walks into a new house and it's all spooky and it's getting renovated and they're like, oh, maybe there's some dark secrets in this house. And there's dark secrets in the house, and then there's an exorcism and it's just The Exorcist. There are some interesting visuals at the end. And by interesting, I mean it kind of loses its mind in the last 15 minutes, which I think if the whole film was that batshit crazy, it would actually be kind of amazing. But it's way too little, way too late, and it kind of feels a little out of place how insane it gets by the end. But overall, it's just like a slog, a dreary, boring slog. All the characters are nothing, like they aren't even one note. Like we get nothing with them. And it's not like, oh, the film just kicks off and we learn about them along the way. No, we just don't learn anything about them. It's just a family. There's a mum, a daughter, and a son. And the only thing I know about the son is he doesn't talk until he's the Exorcist boy. And that's like the most character we get for anybody. Except for, of course, cool, hip, young, sexy Pope guy. Pope's Exorcist. Played by Russell Crowe, of course. And he is doing his best, but his character feels... like it's a swing. They're trying to do something with him. At least they're trying to do something with him. But it doesn't really work. I didn't really buy him. And he's got a sidekick. And the sidekick at one point has like a whole thing go on. And like, oh, look at him and his sidekick do their whole thing. But it's like just no one's given any time. This movie feels so long. And yet nothing feels like it's developed or given the time to make us care. So when everything happens, you care. And honestly, if the film was really, really scary and tense, and the atmosphere was like filled with dread and horror or suspense, like a thriller or something, like if it had some kind of thing, all these surface level characters, all this, paper thin plot, you'd forgive all those things. But it doesn't have that either. Like, it doesn't have anything. This film is kind of almost impressive how bad it is. But it's not impressive, it's just boring. And kind of disappointing. Like I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. And what's more disappointing is finding out who the director was. Because I was like, is this his first film maybe? But it's not. He directed Overlord, which is like one of the best war/a different thing movies I've ever seen. I feel bad for having nothing positive to say. So there's two positives for this film. The acting for the little kid demon guy. And he's like, oh, I'm the demon. Swear word. And he does like the thing. He looks terrifying. And the other good thing is the makeup on the little boy who's the Exorcist demon boy. The makeup is spectacular. It goes a little CGI at times, but I mean, that didn't even look that bad, to be honest. Like, it could have looked a lot worse. But the actual makeup and just effects on his face, the practical stuff, looks spectacular. Like, really, really good, flawless, amazing stuff. And his acting and his whole demeanor felt really adult and intense. Like, I don't know, like, I found that really upsetting. But unfortunately, everything he was saying felt derivative of The Exorcist, but also they were just like, crank it up to 12, have him swear all the time, have him say really perverse stuff, like just disgusting stuff, and that'll really shock the audience. And it's like, I don't know, it felt like kind of cringe, like it felt kind of try-hardy, which I hate to say, but it really, I don't know, like so little in this film worked. Like the idea that one child's performance and the makeup on him is like the only positive. I guess the other positive is if you didn't have Russell Crowe, and it was just some guy, this would be unwatchable. But Russell Crowe is so charming and he's such a sexy, charismatic performance that even when he's kind of phoning it in, or not even phoning it in, just giving a very standard, not exceptional performance, it's still very, very watchable because he's such a fantastic actor and he has such presence on screen. So I guess that's, casting. That's a great casting. It saved the film from being completely unwatchable. 2 hours felt like 3 hours. And I think I may have fallen asleep at one point, which is, it's never a good sign. And you can see, like, I'm not a sleepy kind of guy. But I was like, just like asleep.